Welcome to the Next Fix. We've got another episode coming to you guys. We've got this gentleman right here, Cameron Race. I wanted to say Rice, but I didn't, brother. Got it right, Cameron Race. And so this gentleman is about embracing his manhood and his family and all these beautiful things. And that didn't really come until he got the barrier or the challenge or the shackles, if you will, of substance use. And so, Cameron, welcome to the show, brother.
Ryan, appreciate you having me, man. So happy to be here. Happy to engage in some great conversation with you. Tell a little bit about my story, and hopefully, have your audience walk away with some nuggets that might be applicable in their life. So, yeah,
thought nuggets, brother. That's thought nuggets. We're gonna be dropping them or frying them up, however you prefer your nuggets. There's gonna be nuggets everywhere. So. However, I always get into the nitty gritty, all right, the rough parts, right? Because I think all of the listeners and myself predominantly, we like to know we're talking to somebody that gets it. And usually, and I can tell by the story that I've read thus far, you're familiar with how things look when it's not so great, and you got to make a move, man. So let us know, what did it look like for you? When did you realize, okay, something's got to change?
Yeah, so really, kind of the story for me, it starts as a teenager. Grew up in a pretty normal middle class family household. Grew up going to church, Christianity. Good family, good upbringing, and at some point, I was more interested in partying and the violent movies and rap music and all this kind of stuff. And so started drinking, started smoking weed, I found some really good weed, and everybody else wanted it. So I started selling it from 16 to 21. I thought that's what I was going to do with my life, is I'm going to be a drug dealer.
I've heard they've actually started implementing a good 401k in a lot of drugs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just crazy.
Facetious, everybody knows.
It's crazy how delusional you can get. But I was making good money at the time. By 21, right. I was making six figures doing it. And so,
shit. But whoa, yeah.
But it's just, look, it's a fast life, super paranoid. So because of that, I started doing a lot of other drugs. I grew up at the start of the opioid crisis. I'm in Georgia. Oh, wow. And so a lot of people go down to Florida and go to the clinics and things. So a lot of the people that I know have passed away from use of opioids, that when everything dried up in terms of what they could get through doctors, they end up going to heroin. And so it was a wreck. Luckily, I started cleaning my life up in my early 20s in terms of the drug dealing and things. Went back to school. I've been in a career. I worked in corporate America for 10 years, but continued to use substances, continued to drink really regularly. Man, I was I always felt like I was trying to figure something out. I felt this lack of fulfillment, and I was masking this with substance. And then also, if I went out into a group of people, I felt like if I drink a few drinks, then everyone else is getting a better version of me because of that. And so
because the inhibitions are gone. So you think you're funny as hell. And hell, maybe you are a little bit more funny because you're not afraid to say those jokes and stuff. And I get it, man. That's kind of how I got into it too. It's quite appealing, right? So,
right.
So you're mostly drinking these days?
So right up until I got sober, which was at this point, it was 11 months ago. It was drinking and it was drugs. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I had found out, and it wasn't like all drugs. So what I was using was ketamine. So Jesus, I had the story is crazy, and this is why. So I have kind of my present and my future is I have a movement called Man Up Dad. And essentially the frame for me is it took me becoming a father to realize that I needed to change. But it wasn't when I first became a father, that started me down the path. So when I found out my wife was pregnant, I have a 2-year-old. When I found out my wife was pregnant with our first child, I started realizing I need to kind of get right. So I stopped smoking weed when I found out my wife was pregnant. And then the day that we brought my son home from the hospital, I stopped with nicotine products. But then I was drinking heavily. I was still using other drugs. It wasn't until that we found out that my wife was pregnant with our second kid, which my son would have been a little over a year old at that point because my daughter's 4 months old right now. We found out that she was pregnant on a Wednesday, and then I went into work the following Monday and got laid off. And it was like this 1-2 punch that kind of had me sit back. And I was in my office, which I'm in right now, and I was sitting here in between jobs and was like, man, what am I fucking doing with my life? My wife's asleep in the other room. My son's asleep in the room right next to me, and I'm in my office drinking and doing drugs. Like, I want my kids to be great people, and yet I'm not the man right now that I would want my kids to grow up to be. And it was that thought, that frame in my mind that was like so fucking sobering that I said, I have to become that individual. Like, I'm not going to let that be someone else. I'm not going to be the excuse that my kids have to go down the wrong path. And so that was like, it was literally the flip of a switch. I went from, go ahead if you have a.
Well, I was going to say, man, how heaven sent is that? Because had you not been laid off, you'd still be checking off those boxes. Am I right? You'd be like, hey, I'm bringing home the paycheck, you know, and I think a lot of people are like this, and forgive me for kind of like projecting it on you, but people, if they check off enough boxes, they're like, this is okay for me to keep doing the ketamine and the booze because I'm bringing home a paycheck and the house is paid for. We're okay. I'm paying rent. The lights are on. And so when we check off enough boxes, I feel like it allows us to limp along and kind of just, you know, just live that, like that flat line or that mediocrity. And so for me, my point is that like it's heaven sitting. It's like a blessing that it was stripped away from you because then it spawned this moment. Am I right?
Oh, that's without question. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was making, you know, multiple six figures in a job, and so I leaned on that 100%. You know, like I believe that really, like I want to have it all now, and so I believe like you have body, which is, you know, the way you treat yourself, you know, your physical shape, what you eat, what you ingest. Then you have being, which is your spirituality. Then you have balance, which is your relationship with your wife, your kids, your friends. And then last is business. And it's really in that order. And before I put so much weight on business, I thought, man, if I'm producing well, then I'm a provider and nothing else really matters, you know?
Right.
And man, it's like I was in a terrible place mentally, but I've been living this perpetual cycle for so many years that you just become numb to it. You know, and I needed this awakening. And again, yeah, like you said, it came in the form of this kind of 1-2 punch, which was losing the job and finding out another kid.
Well, I got another question, man. It's like, dude, you said ketamine, man. And honestly, in my mind, I see ketamine as just a gnarly drug. I mean, I don't know how you casually could incorporate that into your life. You know what I mean? Like, I think K-hole, I think all these, is like, it's a very harsh thing, man. So yeah, like, how did that become the thing of choice?
Yeah, so I'm not here to promote that, right? But like, and essentially the reason that I used it was because like I didn't have hangovers the next day. It was something that you experience over the course of, let's say, an hour, and then it's worn off. And so for me, it was something I could do that I could get that disconnected feeling that I was looking for. But that, you know, I could still show up like the next day fine with my family, you know?
Well, at least that's what you're telling yourself.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, we don't need to dive too much into that. But, so the decision is made, right? You draw a line in the sand, and now your priorities have become. You were kind of flirting with the idea, right? You quit.
Yeah.
You quit weed, and you kind of realize, okay, my family is important. But it seems like you really put some boots to the ground as far as like in this. What sticks out to me is the hierarchy that you've already mentioned. it seems like you really started organizing these efforts. And so how did that develop? Like, when did you really start like thinking to yourself, like, okay, I can see the process taking form,
Yeah. So, I mean, it happened in the order that I'm describing. So, where I'm at right now. So it was last October that I started working out. I work out 6 days a week. I developed this morning routine. So I don't do it every single morning, but 95% of the time I get up between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. I spend time, what started out as reading and reflecting. So I'd read some sort of positive material, I'd reflect, I'd journal, and then I'd go to the gym, started counting my macros. I really got my body dialed in. I hadn't worked out since like 2015 on a regular basis. I got up to 176 pounds, got down to 155 pounds, 9.5% body fat, just abs, like,
wow.
Just loved it, right? Veins popping. And so that was my focus there. And it's so funny. Like it's been this journey that I went on. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of this that I grew up in the faith. I had put my faith on the shelf for 20 years. I'm 34 years old now. I put on the shelf since I was like 14 years old. What started out as reading and reflecting is now I go to scripture every morning and study the scripture, and then I pray. And so I've moved back into my faith. But it was like I had to start living in truth. So there's been it's just been this process of like, again, just living in my truth. Was like I was not the man that my family needed. I wasn't the man that my wife needed. So kind of the story's all over the place. I want to get it to a place where it makes some sense. But essentially, when I lost my job, over the next month and a half was like this transitional period where I was interviewing for other jobs. And in that time period, I got sober. I started working out. I started waking up early. I started reading and reflecting. By the time I got a couple job offers, I had decided I don't want to go back to my corporate job because I'm worried if I do that, then I'll slide back into my old ways, right? Just this mundane, mediocre life. Just fall back into the rhythm of things. And I didn't want that. And so I made the decision that I was going to pursue getting online, which is what I do now, through an Instagram page, promote sobriety, fitness, nutrition, mindset, which is what I've been doing now since last October. That has morphed into this movement specifically for men called MUD, which is Man Up Dad. And yeah, the whole thing was, it's just been this slow progression. Started with the body, by getting real with myself, being honest in that truth. It opened up way for my faith. And through that, I realized, that I wasn't showing up really for my wife. Our marriage had been in shambles because, lo and behold, I was hiding behind the drugs and the alcohol. I was so disconnected. So I'm working on that relationship now. And so it's just been this wild journey. But it started out with, for me, again, was for my kids. I just wanted to, I wanted to be the man that my kids looked up to. And at the time when I first started, I thought I want to be a fit dad and I want to be a sober dad, and then, lo and behold, there's a lot more to it than just those two things.
But that's a great start, right?
Right.
And to share a little bit about myself, I've got a 5-month-old son. It's my first child. And I've had this question asked to me several times over the past couple months, is that what am I going to do about my son as far as substances go? Mm-hmm. And so, let me know what you think about this answer, but I think you're already doing my answer, right? I plan on being his hero, but like wholeheartedly. And you had mentioned this earlier in this interview, become the person, right? And because I don't think there's much worse than like a parent who drinks or does drugs, and they say, well, that's okay for me because I'm an adult and you're not allowed to do this. It's the hypocrisy that steals the power of the direction. It's absolutely just powerless. And so my plan is to be fully transparent about my past, and not try to shield him from the world, because he's going to run into it. It's out there. And so, but I, much like yourself, I want to be the sober dad. I want to be the fit dad. I want to be the hero that's not just in the books, but like in front of him, the one that he sees every day. And that takes it takes a lot of work in all those elements, man. I love all the elements that you bring up because I think I agree with you wholeheartedly that they're all very important. And so your spirituality is dialed in these days. Your relationship with your wife is dialed in these days. And sorry, I didn't follow along. You have 2 children. You have a daughter and
a son. Yeah. So my son, he's 2 years old, and then my daughter is about to be 5 months. So I'm right in that same boat, which, by the way, I want to stop and just say, man, congratulations on becoming a father. And man, what a blessing that you're already kind of in that headspace that's where you want to be. Because again, unfortunately, like my son didn't get that in the very, very beginning. That's not what he got from me. It took like this second experience, but they're young.
Well, don't take any credit away from you, brother, because he won't know that guy.
Right.
Like he was around, but like he wasn't aware. You know what I mean? Yeah. I guess you could argue like maybe the energy or something like that. But hey, like he's only going to know this guy that I'm looking at, right? Like he's only going to know this guy. And man, that's just. Thank you, by the way, for your kind words. But our children are going to know. My son's never going to know what I had done. He'll know because I'll share maybe a story, or he can read my book, and that's fine. But like, he's not going to be familiar with that person, and that's something to run away from. And when I say run away from, like, there's something to move away from, like a motivational kind of, something to the antithesis of like the goals and dreams is like something that there's no way in hell I'm going back. I'm not going back. And the title, man, my book is Man Up, Sober Up. It's kind of weird how aligned we are with that. And have you gotten questions about like the aggressiveness of the title?
Oh, bro, fuck them. You know where that started from? You know where that started from? My dad, actually, when I was a teenager, man, I wish I had paid closer attention. I have this sitting on my desk. I'm not sure, but and it's like what you were doing with your whiteboard. I'm trying to show it to you. But my dad gave me a coin when I was a teenager for Christmas. My sister got this coin, and she said, "Cameron, I got this coin. Where is yours?" And my sister said, "Love you." Right. And then I go around and I find mine and I read it. And the first side I read is up, and I flip it to the other side and it says man. So my coin says man, and my sister said love you. And that was at this point in time where I had started going down this wrong path. And my message is meant to awaken guys. So like what I needed was a brash experience met with some messaging similar to what my message is, which is, wake the fuck up. And it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. Like for some guys, that's not it. It could be they're disconnected from their wife because they're watching a bunch of porn. Like it could be the fact that they're so involved in their career that everything else is in the shitter. Like their body could be in such terrible shape. And, so like it's a number of things for all these different guys. But yeah, I speak the message that's true to my heart. I grew up in a rougher crowd, right? The kind of people that I associated myself with, and that's the audience I'm trying to speak to. I'm not trying to speak to this soft guy that's offended by, a fuck here or a whatever, you know what I mean? So all I'm trying to do is speak my truth, and it certainly makes some people uncomfortable. My Instagram account and my Facebook started out with a bunch of family and friends, and so some of them are extremely uncomfortable by the message that I share, but again, it's not for them. I'm really trying to make some impact here because I know the impact this has had in my life, the change that I've made. And if I can share that with other men and help them, not just them, but like what you're talking about, Ryan, like we're trying to affect the generations to come. I don't want my kids to have to try to decode and fix my messes, And so, so yeah, man up, right? That's what it's all about. Step up to the plate.
Hopefully, I'm not prying too deep here, but how did your family, like growing up, like how was substances around, like when you were younger, or I guess I'm going around about way of asking, like, are you changing the family tree by becoming sober?
I grew up, my grandfather that I really looked up to. So I come from on my dad's side, a long line of entrepreneurs. My grandfather was an alcoholic for sure. My dad, I didn't know it at the time, but he was not very open about everything. Like, he didn't have a really open relationship with me. I loved him. We did a lot of cool guy shit together, built stuff, these kinds of things. But he had a pretty checkered past as well. But he didn't share any of it. He didn't share his struggles and things. And he still, dabbles. So yeah, I would say that, I'm putting a stake in the ground that no one else in that, side of my family has done, and again, it was just about a reframe. Like, the guys that come through my program, if they're still even considering doing drugs, by the end of it, then I haven't done my job, because it's about coming up with a why that's so strong that in your weakest moments, it's like, you're not even concerned about it anymore,
Right. I'm again, another likeness is that my grandpa, who I admired as well, he was your classic 50s father, man. He had a business, he ran a business, and he had martinis for lunch, and he came home and he wasn't beating anybody, and he wasn't falling down. He wasn't, you know what I mean? Like, he was checking off the box. He was running his business, and now his health declined, rapidly towards the end there. But like, he was that in his era, that's what you did, and it was totally fine. Like, for people to tell him like smoking cigarettes is bad, like, he didn't believe them. It wasn't a part of his narrative, and so he would go out and he would do his business, and he would drink a lot, right? But like, he wasn't the kind of guy that like he didn't get locked up, and he wasn't like causing a scene. But it was how I grew up. I grew up around that, and so it wasn't. It was there, but who knows? There might be a therapist somewhere telling me like I've got some kind of trauma in there about it. But in my eyes, I looked up to him, and he got the damn job done, and that's how I feel about it. But I'm also like happy and proud that like you said, put a stake in the ground and make some changes, because I don't intend on my son choosing that lifestyle that my grandpa had, or even the one that I had chosen in the earlier part of my life. Man, that's huge, man. You're doing real big things, man. And it seems like you've always done real big things. Have you always been like, I don't know, man. It just seems like even when you said you were like, you're dealing drugs, it seemed like a higher level, man. Is that what you're teaching these guys in this program, to like how to reach this higher level of like performance, if you will?
Yeah, I've always been pretty dialed in, whether for good or for bad. And so, yeah, I mean, it starts out like the program's evolving. Again, it's like it started out just mindset, fitness, and nutrition. But then as I've continued to grow over the last year, again, spirituality, my marriage. So like it continues to add and add and add. And then I look back on how I was successful in my last job. So I started out in banking 6 years in 2017, made $60,000. By the end of it, when I left, was making over $200,000. And so like I've had the ability to lock in on things and do well. And so I'm really trying to just create a community of guys and to be there for them and what they need. So, let's say they're dialed in their faith, they're dialed in their family, they need some help with their fitness, and then we get into it all and they're trying to grow in their career. Like, there are certain very soft skills that I feel like I possessed that have helped me to become who I am. And so, and I think that's something that everyone can learn. Like I was a relationship manager in banking, which is essentially just a salesperson. And so it was soft skills. And now everywhere all over the internet, what everyone talks about for sales training is like, here's the script. It's like, fuck a script, bro. You don't need a script. You don't need a script. You got to connect to people. You got to follow up. You got to send the emails. You got to ask questions. Be curious. It's just like basic shit. Find good mentors, like I didn't have to be told a lot of this shit. But there are certain areas that I have needed a lot of guidance, and so, yeah, I mean, it's about creating a community of men to be there to support one another, because the guys that I grew up with, it's like what you were describing. It's this rite of passage in our society that guys get together and they drink and they do drugs and they fraternize with women. And it's like just this fucking like, boast your chest. Like it's just poke your chest out and like, who's the biggest badass? And it's like, dude, it's not what you think it is. Right. Like, the more you grow up the more simple life becomes, right? You want all that noise to go away. And so again, like that's the crazy, about the program. It's like myself, it took me over a year of sitting in the shoes of being a dad to really step into the role. And so like, I'm sharing that story, like you don't have to have it all figured out. But once you have like come to the decision, then step up to the plate and be the fucking man, Right. It's so easy to backslide. I mean, for instance, so I said, I have to own my truth. Like my messaging started out as I wake up between 3 and 4 o'clock every single day. This morning, I missed my wake up time. I didn't get up till 5 a.m. So like the struggle is real. I've been doing this for 11 months. I'm not fucking perfect, but it's about stepping up to the plate every single day and trying your fucking hardest. That's my job as a man, is to not give up.
And you're teaching others how to do it, and I think it's a very noble cause. It's man. A couple of things, like I've been a salesman a lot of my life, and I never could read a script, brother. I never could. I'm like, look, just put them in the room with me, and we're gonna figure it out. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna waste their time. We're gonna figure this thing out. And so like I could never do it. And despite people like people reprimanding me like, hey, just stick to the script. It works. I'm like, I don't care if it works. Like I didn't appreciate that because I didn't feel like I was being genuine. I didn't think that they're not my thoughts. They're not. And I always got a lot further just by listening and trying to figure out where people were at. And so where you're at, in my eyes, my perception is that like you've got a lot of passion about this, man. And I think passion and then like having a noble cause like you do, it's easy to get past mediocrity, And I feel like that's another thing that maybe that you're battling is that. How do you feel about that mediocrity? Because when I think about it, the literal interpretation is the medium, like the average. And I'm all like, fuck that, like get past mediocrity. But it's like, it's mediocrity for a reason. Like it's the average. So not everybody can, everybody can, but that's not what mediocrity is. Like it would mean that most people are there. And so like, how do you combat that both in like in your life, and then how would you help somebody that's like just satisfied being mediocre? Like what would you say to them?
Oh, bro. Oh, shit. Look, I've never been mediocre in anything, man. I'm not I hate mediocrity. That's not me.
Right.
I'm intense about everything I do. I've been intense in sports that I played. I was intense when I was a drug dealer. I was intense when I was a fucking drinker. I was intense when I was in fucking sales. I'm intense in the way that I work out. I work out 6 days a week. I still am active even on the seventh day. I mean, like, so again, my message isn't for everybody. And so if what I have to do is convince you that mediocrity isn't for you, then, you're not ready for my message yet. Right. Like, so my message is for that guy that's fucking yearning for a change and he just needs that course correction. I'm here, bro. Nice. Like I'll add fuel to your fire. I'll guide you in the right direction. But for the guy that like, imagine that. Imagine every single week having to jump on a call and convince somebody of doing something. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm here that like you feel the conviction. Let's go. I'll help you.
Right.
And of course there's good weeks and bad weeks, but the person that just generally feels like mediocrity is for them, that's tough.
Right. Yeah. That's a badass answer, man. I like it, and I'm just winging these questions any damn way. But like, I personally, I had when I was getting sober, I had lived with my cousin and her husband, and I was coming off rock bottom, so I had a long ways to go. I was like 265 pounds. I'm at like 205 right now. No, I'm sorry, I'm like 195 right now, something like that. Whatever, 200 pounds. And I just remember seeing this dude. And because of my circumstances, he had linked himself to me. so he would include me with him and his all his downfall, his obesity, his overeating, and all these things and it drove me fucking nuts. However, I didn't have the proof at the moment to back it up. So I didn't have a leg to stand on to say, no, I am not like you. It's like the clock is ticking. I'm working every day, but I was at that phase, like you had mentioned. I was in the observation and the reading and the journaling and getting my mindset correct. And I hadn't caught up physically, and I hadn't caught up in my vocation or financially. I was still kind of climbing up off of the bottom, the rock bottom. So that was something to me. I saw like a beta male. He's a beta male. He's mediocre. And it drove me nuts because I was in the same pool with him, and it was a motivational element in my life, man. Because I just hated being like that, and I knew I was on the right path, you know what I mean? But it was at that time frame, and I was struggling with it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was only my part of that, I was felt like I'm damn, I'm sick of being put into the same category when I know inside I'm not. So I qualify for one of the people that should be calling you, right? That guy who I'm talking about, this is 4 years ago. That's the guy who should be calling you and saying, hey man, look, I'm trying to make some moves. Can you expedite this process? I mean, that's what you're doing. Am I right? You kind of just fast tracking people.
That's it, man. Yeah. I mean, I got goosebumps listening to what you're describing because you're describing you weren't that mediocre guy. You were the guy that had this, a flip was, or a switch was flipped, it's the same thing. I mean, when you were before you hit rock bottom, how many people, I'm sure, people that family, loved ones, what have you, were trying to speak sense into you and you don't listen. Right. Or maybe you're like me and you just got so good at hiding it all that really no one even knew what was going on. But no one could tell me any different. It had to happen within me first. And so my message is the same all the time. It's day in and day out. But the same message that someone sees today is different than when they see it 30 days from now. Their situation changes. I am going to be the immovable. I want to be the person that's not going to change. It's going to be here for you. And yeah, my goal is to add fuel to the fire. I have systems and processes. I have my own experience, my own knowledge. I know the questions to ask you. I know when you are feeling a little off track to get you back on track. I have other people that have gone through the program and gotten results. So it's just this community feel that I know has helped me in my life. Take me back to banking, because again, life is always, there's lessons that we can learn and extract from different areas and apply them to areas that are unrelated. So in banking, I joined the bank. I didn't have to pay for mentorship because it was at the organization, but I found other top performers in my same job and I called them and I said, hey, listen, I'm new at this job. I want to learn it. I want to figure it out. Do you mind if I call you? Well, I had 6 people that said yes. And so on a daily basis, I would check in with each one of those people and I'd ask them a different question, challenges that I came up with or that I encountered, and they would help me work through that challenge. Well, because I had 6 of them, then neither one of them felt like, hey, this guy's calling me multiple times a day. I'm not going to pick up his phone call. And so that helped to fast track me along my way. Within 18 months, I was in a top 5% producer within the role. And so it's the same kind of thing. When I stepped out of that and into what I'm doing now, I have coaches and trainers myself now, right? And I will continue to do so. Now I have to pay for those because I'm an entrepreneur, because I don't work within an organization where that's a resource that's available to me that way. But, that is what is so important to me, is having other people that have been where I'm at that I can go to and ask questions. Because you can do things slow and struggle through it, or you can move fast and, it affects the wallet a little bit, but with the growth comes new opportunity. And with new opportunity comes, more money, right? So,
right. And so, what comes to my mind is and it's popular, you see hacks life hack this, life hack that. That what you did is one of the oldest hacks in the game. you just ask somebody that's a little further along than you for help. Most times, and you figured out a way not to be a nuisance. Am I right? Like, cause people will help to an extent, right? And you knew that, right? You knew that. Well, you're not paying those people, so they'll answer a question. They'll pick up the call, they answer a question, and you're being helped, and they feel good about helping you, and it's not overstepping boundaries, but it's the hack is you ask for help. You just say, hey, and you can go about it different ways. You can pay for it. You can ask for out of the goodness of somebody's heart. They may help you. They may not. Who knows? But the answers they're out there. And then, man, I love the resourcefulness that you got into the organization. Like, one of the first things you do is you're like, I'm just going to ask some people. And you probably looked at, I don't know, probably a sales report, and you're like, okay, Tom, Samantha, so-and-so, and like, okay, well, there's their phone number. Hey, how'd you do this? And I think so often it's one of the most effective things that exists. And there's many times if you ask enough people, you'll find somebody that cares enough that they don't mind. You know what I mean? Like, that's a glorious thing. And now you're doing it. And so we'll get into that. Like, so what are you doing now? Are you offering this? Well, clearly you're offering a program, but what does it look like to work with you? And then, how does that look, brother?
Yeah. So again, the org it's progressed, as I mentioned earlier. So again, the movement, it's a new name, which is Man Up Dad. It's which is short. MUD is short for Man Up Dad, which is about these guys that have been stuck in the mud. And so it's expecting fathers, it's young fathers, it's these guys that have woken up to the fact that the way they've been living is not in congruence with the way they want their kids to grow up, and they're ready to make a change. And for that guy, I'm here to be a resource. So at this point, I'm working with guys on a one-on-one basis. I also have a group call where everyone gets together. The barrier to entry is on fitness. It's got to be a guy that wants to have it all across the board, and part of that is fitness. So we're going to get you dialed in with your fitness and your nutrition, and then see what else you need, right? It's a relationship business. It's the same thing that I did before. So every guy is going to need something different. He could be struggling in his finances. He could be struggling in his marriage. And so it's just helping individuals to flush out what it is in addition to the body piece that they're struggling with, and trying to help them in those areas as well.
Right.
Because to be honest with you, the fitness and the nutrition is not the hardest part. Within 3 or 6 months, we're going to solve that problem. And it's like you said, I mean, those resources exist out on the internet. You can find a macro calculator that's going to get you really close to the numbers that you need to hit. You can go and find some workouts. But working with someone, there's going to be good weeks and bad weeks. You're going to start questioning whether what you're doing is right, at which point most people would try something different, and then they're backsliding and they're never really getting anywhere. They get frustrated, they quit. And so it's having someone there from an accountability perspective to just keep you on the right track, tracking in the right direction, because in the beginning, that's when you're most volatile, right? Like that's when the biggest, that's that pivotal moment. You're on this tipping point of, do you see it through and build up enough confidence in yourself to keep going, or do you backslide? And again, also the reason that fitness is where I start is because we're visual creatures. And so again, within 3 or 6 months, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen within a week, but within a short period of time, you will see a change in your physical body. And so if you're trying to improve your entire life, what a great place to start is somewhere where you actually can visually see the difference that your efforts are making. And then it just helps to get that ball rolling.
Right. So I'm on board with that, brother, because I think that the physical, I started getting in shape first, like you said, because it's not usually rocket science. You just got to be moving. You just got to move more than you were before, and they just keep moving more. Like if you were to make it as simple as and I think that your program has probably got a lot more involved, like probably weight training or calisthenics, but without the linchpin of your physical health, it's very tough to do. And then there's a double-sided benefit to it where you start to gain clarity by putting in the reps physically. Like for me anyway. Like I feel it's almost like it's almost a style of meditation, if you will, to exercise. But that domino for me was the first to fall. And that's pretty cool that it's the first to fall in your program as well. Let me ask you though, I kind of touched on it. Like what type of like workouts, like say, say I go to the gym 2 or 3 days a week. I hit some machines. I haven't seen any results. Like where would you start working with somebody like that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing you got to do is find out how much time someone is willing to devote to it. Right. So it's like, it's a custom program. So if someone has 2 days a week, we can work with that. I work out 6 days a week. Like I said, it takes me about an hour each day. And so I got to work with what somebody gives me. If someone's trying either way, if you're trying to lose weight 100%, it's 80% diet, 20% in the gym. The thing is, the reason we go to the gym is if you're on a weight loss journey and all you do is focus on the nutrition, there's going to be nothing for the big reveal. Like you're going to have lost all this weight and then you're just going to be this loose guy. And so that's why we're going to the gym, and if you're skinny fat, then, again, the nutrition, we gotta give you the nutrients for you to build the muscle. And so, again, the programming is going to be specific to what someone needs. If they are trying to gain weight because they've always been skinny, then it's going to look different than for someone who's trying to lose weight. The guy that tries to lose 100 pounds is different than the guy that's trying to lose 20 pounds. And similarly in terms of exercise. But I'll tell you, my programming is more based off of hypertrophy training, which is going to be higher reps, lower weight. It's more aesthetic. What kills me is the guys that I see in the gym that have been working out for 5 years and they don't look like they've been working out. I don't give a shit. I don't care how strong you are. If you don't look like you work out, what the fuck are you even doing it for? Because there is something as a man that comes from having a bicep vein and abs. People look at you different, you feel different. So what is the purpose of just having some strength that's hidden behind this flab and you just have this big old belly? That's not my program. Again, my program it's like what you said. There's something cathartic about going in there and getting your body into peak physical form. And that is a visual thing as much as it is, a health thing as well. And so, it's bicep vein and abs. That's what I tell my guys. That's what we're going for.
It makes me think back to, when I was a kid, Hulk Hogan, man. Hulk Hogan said, bicep curls is the way to girls for you, brother. And I'm like, I still think I took that in my little tiny mind, and I was like, yep. And guess what? I've applied it a lot of my life. It's made sense, and it's been true. So, hey man, it was the old school wrestler mentor of mine as a child, but man, that is super awesome because you just touched on it. I had mentioned about the double benefit. You get all of it. You get to be healthier and you get to look better. And there's no reason why the hell you can't have all of that. And there's no reason why you can't be closer to God, look better, make more money. I feel too many times people, they kind of, what's the term I'm looking for here? They kind of shrug back, or they kind of like hold themselves back because it's like, if you have all of it, then like, I don't know, maybe they feel greedy or they feel like they're entitled, whatever the hell it is. It's like, it's a blessing, and we're meant to have all of these things. And so guys like yourself that are out there showing like, hey man, check it out. You can have all of it. You can have all of it. Like the love of your children, a good looking physique, some cash in the bank. Like it's all there. And a lot of times guys just need some encouragement, man. And that's what you're doing, brother. We'll let everybody know, like, where do we find you? What's the best way to get in contact? What's the best way to get started?
Yeah, so best way to get a hold of me is through Instagram. My handle is at Cameron, CAMERON_race. So at Cameron_race through Instagram, DM me, reach out. We'll schedule a time through Zoom, have a discovery call, see if it's a good fit. If so, we can go into a longer call generally is the process. And then again, if it's a good fit, then we'll work together. The best place to start is, whether it's me or somebody else, find somebody who is here to help you. Because again, as I mentioned, like in the beginning, when you're trying to make this change, it's going to feel like a lot. You're fighting. If you're if you're a dad, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s. You have years and years built up of these habits that are not good for you. And so to try to go at it alone, you have a friends group more than likely that is still doing those things. You yourself subconsciously are programmed that the way you had been doing it feels good, even if it also hurts, and so you got to reach out to somebody. Again, whether me or somebody else, reach out to somebody, join a program like mine. Again, there's a lot of power with a man where your body starts looking good, you start feeling good, you feel empowered, you walk around with your chest up, and you start realizing, no, I am that motherfucker. And there's a lot more that's available to me than what I've had for and what I've been striving for up until now.
That's awesome, man. Well, you guys have heard it here, man. The MUD program with Cameron Race, and he's got a powerful message, man. And I feel like I was meant to hear this, hear him speak today, and I got the blessing to speak with him, but. I'm taking away some thought nuggets myself, brother. This is important stuff, and I think it's our duty, it's our due diligence as fathers to participate. And even if you're not a father, get your shit together, because maybe you will be a father soon. You don't know, or maybe you don't have the chance of being a father because you can't get a chick. So get your shit together so you can get a chick, and then you can become a father. It's how it works, So, anyways, listen, man. Cameron, thank you so much for showing up today, brother. And this has been The Next Fix, guys. I really appreciate everybody, and we'll see you soon.
I appreciate you, Ryan.